Once again, good morning, Kalimera. It is 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on a Tuesday, and it is the 29th day of August of the summer 2023. I'm Teddy Dimitriadis, along with Kostas Spedikakis, and joining us on the phone for our weekly segment, Market Update, is Manny Frangiadakis, along with Stamatis Astra. Gentlemen, good morning. Kalimera σας.
Good morning, Kalimera.
Καλημέρα σας. Καλημέρα σας, καλημέρα.
So, Manny, is this a dead cat bounce here where we're having a last couple of days?
So, oddly enough, I mean, you've only recorded 2 positive days in a row for the month of August. So, you carried over from Friday, had a decent rally today, but you had a nice reversal from this morning's low due to the JOLTS report, which showed fewer job openings in the U.S. than at any period over the last 2 years. So we're in a market environment right now that bad news will actually be interpreted as good news, and good news will be interpreted as bad news. So it's actually backwards. And the reason why it is that if you do have a cooling off in the U.S. labor market, potentially that changes the course for the Federal Reserve, meaning that you could open the door to some potentially easier policies sometime nearer in the future than was previously believed prior to this morning's report. We don't have that much faith in it. I think the Fed is going to be looking to see a number of reports that kind of matches what they're expecting to see in the market before changing posture as it relates to rate rises and higher for longer.
So that's the oxymoron, right?
It's the oxymoron, exactly.
If you want lower rates for your loans and the business and the low rates, you have to wish for bad news.
Correct. You have to wish for the economy to get further weaker, for job losses to increase, for the unemployment rate to increase, for payroll to decrease. So you don't want to see any wage pressures. Essentially, you want to make sure that inflation is completely getting removed, that due to economic weakness, disinflation is coming back into the economy, which will lead to rate cuts. Obviously, we know that we will be cutting rates in the future at some point. The key question is when. So right now, based off of the bond market's moves after this morning's number, you are pricing in one more rate cut at the moment in 2024. But we're hesitant to believe that takes place because after Jackson Hole last week, the one point that Fed Chair Powell continuously made was that they are not going to take their eyes off the ball, that they continue to think that inflation is problematic, persistent, and resilient, and that longer term, that means rates will stay elevated for a sustainable period of time.
Mm-hmm. So Manny, you're trying to tell us that it's going to go even higher than...
I don't know if it's going to go any higher, Costa. I think you could be you could have reached Fed peak, meaning that maybe there are no more rate hikes this year or next year. The key question is how long do you stay at a 5.5% federal funds rate?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe it's going to be going higher.
What is the indication of? What is the indication about business and the unemployment, and it does not look that raising the interest rates has really slowed down the economy. It does not. Eventually it will, I think. But who am I to say that? I mean, you'll be able to tell us.
I think you're 100% right, Costa. I think that it is slowing down the economy, but I do think that it's operating at a substantial lag, meaning that, we spoke about this last week, that from the first rate hike to finishing, it usually takes about 22 months to get to the actual recession because it takes a long time for these lags to play out through the economy. So the real story here was how resilient the economy was in the first half of 2023. Now that seems to be dissipating as we're getting a number of different reports, whether it's from companies and earnings and what they expect in future quarters, or from the Dallas manufacturing print that just hit this morning that shows a number of industries that are in severe weakness, whether it's computer and electronics. We heard it from Best Buy this morning that they're hoping that the end of this weakness in sales for them ends within the next 1 to 2 years, and they're saying hope because they don't know. So depending on which industry you look at, there is certainly a number of pain points out there. The biggest difference that most people got wrong was how resilient it would be in the first half. We expect it to continue to weaken going through year end and into 2024, which will eventually lead to Fed rate cuts because as economic performance dissipates and we keep a high cost of capital out there, well, at the same time, that means capital investment from a corporate sector isn't occurring, and that is also noticeable in the reports that CapEx is not occurring, and that we're truly actually in a manufacturing recession here in this country. Not just in this recession, we're seeing it in Europe, and we're seeing it play out in Asia. So at some point, you do expect backlogs to be rebuilt, but at the time being, companies are hesitant to put capital to work at this point in time, given the cost of capital, which makes future investments very uncertain.
Mm.
Manny, another big headline this morning was that the announcement from Biden administration for 10 drugs to be in price negotiations with Medicare. Can you, from a drug company point of view, and do you see is that a significant material change?
No, I don't see it. I think it's a political football as we're getting closer to the 2024 election cycle. The Democrats and the administration are hoping to be seen out there doing what's right for the American people and the average citizen, which for most people, it's, healthcare related costs are a particular voting point. So if he can do anything to materially lower drug prices by having these conversations and negotiations take place, it would benefit him. But I don't see it materially affecting the economy or the market.
Mm-hmm. So that's a political maneuver. So, because
I
read it yesterday that he, they're really fighting to lower the drug prices, and I don't know how true this is. I mean.
Yeah, it's just negotiations. It doesn't mean that it leads anywhere, but it's a good picture on the front page of the New York Times or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, if you see the how much they pay in Europe for, I'm familiar with one drug, metformin, which is for people that they suffer from diabetes, and I mean. It's unbelievable. I know somebody.
Price difference.
Yeah, yes. I mean, you're talking about over here is like about 400% more than in Europe.
Right.
This is unbelievable. I mean, how much money? I mean, it's identical. The same,
same product.
Yeah, exactly, same product. Identical.
Product. We've heard about this for years. It's an issue for the politicians.
So who is, I mean, when the people in the United States wake up and see what's going on, how they're getting ripped off,
Manny, we had the debates last week, and I think I know the answer to this, but nonetheless, no effect on anything in your ball game, right? Nothing?
Zero. I mean, we're so far out, Teddy, from, November of 2024, that it really won't be front and center for most people until we get to most likely January, February, and things start to heat up. I mean, look, I think a lot of people don't even want to pay attention at this point in time because the Democrats really don't have anyone that they're putting forward. They have, I think, 4 people that have listed themselves as candidates compared to 15 on the Republican side. And then you're dealing with, the backlash of Trump and what took place with him last week. I just think there's a lot of noise right now, and people aren't willing to pay attention yet until it gets closer. And I also think that there's a significant portion that believes that even the front runners today won't end up being the candidates as we move forward into November of 2024.
I see. Huh.
All right, Manny, I'm going to just completely do a 180 on you because football season starts next week, and I know you're following. Give us a little insight on what we might have on the Patriots gridiron this season.
Oh, God. I mean, so for the Pats, I think that, number one, you have the toughest schedule in football. Going into 2023, 2024, you're playing in the toughest division in football with seeing how mightily the Jets have improved as well as the Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills remaining intact. And I think that you have a lot of question marks around your current roster. But here's your saving grace is that you brought Bill O'Brien back. So the one thing is that offense should not look anything like it did last season. Yeah. And you should see a material improvement in the play of Mac Jones and the play calling surrounding him. Mm-hmm. And that your defense is pretty stacked. and you do have a stout front seven. So it's just a matter of, can they put it all together? Do they have enough players in the right place that can make plays, that can win them games? And how thoughtful is the scheme that we're going to be utilizing week to week? I think that Vegas has them at 7 wins this year. I would be optimistic and hope that, Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time, figures out a way to at least be 500. But do I expect them to go to the playoffs and make some noise and find themselves in a divisional championship game? No, I do not.
Neither do I.
No, it's just that you have a really tough landscape of teams and players in the NFL, and some that are coming together at the perfect time. Whether you look at Philly or Buffalo or Kansas City continuing their run, even Denver's improvement in bringing in Sean Payton. There's a lot of things that could shift out. It's early in the season. As we know, the NFL never really shapes up what we expect it to be. There's always a lot of surprises. Obviously, a ton of injuries in the sport, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I, for one, am extremely excited for football to get back.
Just to get back in
Yeah,
action.
I'm looking for a ticket December 4th. It's New England against my team, LA Chargers.
The Chargers. Yeah. Manny, just one more note. Gusta brought it up. I guess Bryant is moving into
next year.
A new division, a little bit more strength. So bravo to our.
Actually, you're going to be at the same conference as University of Rhode Island. Yeah, so we're going to have a rivalry. Yeah.
Better academics, better athletics, but that's the landscape of college football. Everything is changing up. I mean, the big news next year is that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be going into the Southeastern Conference. So there's a massive shakeup. There's actually supposed to be a vote, I believe, yesterday for the University of North Carolina, or at the University of North Carolina, to bring in Stanford, Cal, and one other team into the ACC. But there was a shooting on campus, and obviously to respect what was happening there yesterday, they postponed it. But there's obviously a huge shakeup in college football, which makes sense when you consider the fact that NIL came into play. Players now can be endorsed and can get paid. Universities
different ball game altogether now. Well,
it's a whole different ball game, and people are going after TV rights and trying to strengthen up conferences and really put universities in conferences that make sense based off of their best athletic sports that they offer. So there's massive shake-up in college football, and I would expect to continue, as there's been a lot of changes over the last 2 years.
Manny, Stamati, go ahead.
On the college football, you also have the players now that they're getting more opportunities to make money. So
that's the
on the Supreme
I'm
Court
curious to see what kind of numbers we're talking when the first one flies. But I have a feeling it's not going to come.
I mean, there's players already out there that are getting serious money. I mean, LeBron James' son is making a couple million. I forget her name, but the basketball star from LSU.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Significant money that she actually just had to take online classes because she's become such a big celebrity that she can't be in public classrooms.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, we're a little bit up against the clock, gentlemen. Great segment once again. Weekly Tuesdays at 11 o'clock. Manny Frangiadakis, 12 Points Wealth Management, along with Stamati Sastra. Gentlemen, have yourselves a terrific day, and we'll regroup next week.
Take care, gentlemen.